Shiata hetanwahi. Namaka ochlate hetanwahi. Malakota cha ohini waniktelo. Ho hechetuelo. We want to get into the Halloween topic here. And so anyway, let's get right into business here and talk about things from ancient Lakota Halloween ceremonies. So take out your pen and papers. I'm going to give you all our secrets. The origin of trick or treat, yeah. I'm just kidding. We don't have such a thing. There is no such thing as a Lakota Halloween. Never existed. This doesn't even come from our world. Our world doesn't even have anything like that. Lakota Star Knowledge Creation Story, there are several organizations called Wakatanka, but in the beginning there was only one. There was only one organization called Wakatanka. This is not God. We went through a Christianization experience on the reservation where our minds were basically made to be weak by not allowing us to leave the reservation, not allowing us to eat healthy food, not allowing us to speak our language. Our ceremonies were outlawed, so we became weak physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and automatically we became mentally weak. Those are the four parts of the self. Then Christian priests came and took advantage of that. This is the same process that cults and terrorists put their new recruits. They put them through these kind of things where they deprive their body of things that it needs. That's what happened to Indians. We were not allowed to eat healthy foods. We were not allowed to speak our language. We were not allowed to practice our ceremonies. So we were really hit physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And like I said, that's how we became weak-minded. And the priests took advantage of that, and they changed Lakota concepts into Christian concepts. So they changed the definition of Wakatanka to mean their Christian God, which is man-made. Wakatanka does not mean God. There is no one creator. People all over the world that really embrace Lakota spirituality, they don't want to have anything to do with Christianity, but then they say the creator. They say Wakatanka, the creator. They're still holding on to a one God concept. So even though they've shunned their Christian churches and are trying to follow Lakota spirituality, they're still looking at it through their Christian eyes by saying, Creator, Great Spirit, may the Great Spirit constantly bless you. See, we don't talk like this. This is not our way. That's a Christian way of talking. All they're doing is they're just looking at our way through Christian eyes. I have to point that out because there's people listening right now that believe that Wakatanka is the Great Spirit, the Creator. It's not. Absolutely not. It's an organization. There's many people in these organizations. We do not have a one God concept. I have to really, really stress that. Okay? That has to be understood before you can really understand the story I'm going to talk about. Okay? Alright. So, in the beginning, there was only one Wakatanka organization. And there were 8 people in it. Okay? Now, one of them was the Earth. And she had like a best friend. They were like sisters. And the sister's name was Unk. Unk was younger. But the Earth was very tempestuous. She really had a temper. Remember, this is the beginning. Okay? This is the beginning of the Earth. So she's still really young. And she's very temperamental. And you think about the development of the earth, it makes sense because that's how it was in the beginning. The earth was always moving. There were always volcanoes blowing and earthquakes and all these kind of things that were happening. So it makes sense. She was tempestuous. And she was jealous of Unk. And so the jealousy got so bad that she threw Unk into the water and told her to stay there. And the earth does have more power than Unk at that time. Okay? At that time. I have to stress that. At that time. That's just the beginning of the story. Okay? So, the earth had more power than Unk at that time. So she was able to cast her into the water and she told her to stay there. Now these two ladies were members of the first Wakantanka. Unk didn't do anything wrong. But the other members of the Wakantanka, they're young too. Okay? And so they're not always doing the right thing. But there is two of them that are really wise, that are in the Wakantanka. So they're not all immature, is what I'm saying. But they go through a development just like we do. So today, now they're grandmothers and grandfathers. They're really known as wise people. This is really important to know. I really have to stress this. See, we're talking way in the beginning. Way in the beginning. And there's some animals on the earth, but mostly it's plants. What I really would like you to remember is that in this story, at this time, the earth is not the wise grandmotherly woman that we see her as today. She always is complaining. She complains. She wants this and wants that. When she gets it, she finds fault with it. It's not good enough. And so she's handled with care. But at the same time, she's made aware by the wiser members of the Wakantanka. They tell her, say, hey, be careful. Because, whatever you do, you have to accept the consequences of that. And she would be, I don't care. She's just very tempestuous, but it's true. She has to put up with the consequences of her actions. So, after Unk was thrown in the water, she was hurt, she was crying, and then she got angry because the other members of the Wakantanka didn't do anything to rectify the situation. So she became angry. And now she's on a new path. And now she wants to cause trouble for everything. She wants to cause problems. She wants to cause contention. She wants to make it so that people are disturbed, that people are always nervous, uneasy, scared at what's going to happen next. That's what she wants now. Because she's seeking revenge. So there was a time period where the Wakantanka, remember I said there's 8 of them at this time, and there was a time period in which they created beings. Some of the members of the Wakantanka are the sun, the moon, the earth, Unk, the blue that you see in the sky, that shkon, that allows for life to move, Tate, the wind, Ian, the mountain, and Wakian, the thunder being. So these are the 8, the first 8. And they created beings. For example, The sun creates beings that live in the fire. Wakia creates more Wakia, more thunder beings. But you kind of get the pattern here. Remember, Unk is in the water. Now, at this creation period, she's angry. She wants revenge against the earth. So she decides to create all kinds of creatures that can live in the water and on the earth. And she puts her revenge energy into these creatures to cause trouble for the earth. And they're all kinds of shapes. And she's just angry as they're just... So she creates really funny looking things. Just goofy. That's why when you see things in the water, they're strange. Remember, even 2 years ago, this place on the world where it's supposed to be the deepest area in the Pacific Ocean, and they sent the camera down there. Here something came, and it looked just weird. One of the weirdest looking things they ever seen. This is an example. These are the things that Unk created. Anyway, she creates all kinds of things, and they're all sizes. Some of them are gigantic. They're giants, and they go on the land, and when people started coming on the earth, they could eat a whole village. They were really just troublemakers. And there's lots of Lakota stories about these creatures. They're called Nkchechi. The really small ones that you can't see, they're called Nkchechila. And there's a certain kind that can poison the water, so that when you drink it, these little ones go inside your body and they make you sick. These are microorganisms. Because the description is really interesting, and then when you look at these things under a microscope, it matches the description. So we had a word for that too. You can't see them, but yet we had a word for it. So Unk creates these things to cause trouble. So they go on the earth and they stomp around and they raise hell with people. And then Wakia, the thunder being, when she senses them, she goes after them and attacks. Because remember, this is trouble. They're causing trouble. They have unhealthy energy. And Wakia represents cleansing. So she comes to destroy them. So wherever there's battles, this is what a tornado is. That's why they always follow a river. Because they fight and fight and fight. Then when the Nkchechi is getting beat, he tries to jump in the water. But Wakia is trying to bring it up in the sky because it's going to strike it with lightning in the air and just totally obliterate it. Because there's stories that talk about that. And when people find their bodies, they describe them like they have really big yellow eyes and they have scales, really, really giant scales. And people are they're told to burn it because it has trouble energy in it, disturbing energy. So they're not supposed to touch it. If you do, you have to go through Inipi, a sweat lodge ceremony, to get that energy out. Now we're going to hone in on one particular creation of these Nkchechi. This one looks like a man. And the word Nkchechi really describes it good. Unk means to cause trouble. Nkche is a smell that's so bad it disturbs you. It's worse than smelling a dead body. It's worse than smelling shit. It is really a bad smell. That's Nkche. Ri is brown. So these creatures, they're brown. And they really stink when they come around. When they come around animals really get disturbed and they just run. And these things are walking around and they're really tall. You see how this is heading toward the Halloween theme here? Now we're going to focus in on a story that happened in late 1980s. This is a true story that I'm going to tell you involving this particular kind of Mkchehila. And there's lots of stories like this, my friends, but I'm going to tell you one that I know very well. Like I said, they usually are wandering near water because whenever they're in danger, all they have to do is go in the water. And it doesn't matter how deep the water is. It doesn't even have to be deep at all. But for them, the water is a passageway back to the water world, which is where they can live there too. They can live in the water, and they can also live on the land. So, West End, Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation in the 1980s. On most reservations, there's a lot of houses that they call scattered units out in the country. So when you drive on reservations, sometimes you see that. Yeah, you'll see a house way out there, another one way over there, another one way back there. And these are called scattered units. They're on their own land. And so not everybody lives in the community, is what I'm saying. There's some people live out in the country, and some people like it because they can have horses and ride horse and take care of cattle, whatever kind of thing. So, in this story, this was a family. They had a scattered unit, and it was summertime. The summertime days are very long. And the family was going into a local town to do some food shopping. And they had a teenage girl. She didn't want to go. She wanted to stay. And they had satellite TV, so she wanted to watch TV. They were going to be back in a few hours. They weren't going to. It was not an all-day trip. And they have lots of watchdogs, so she would be okay. And plus, there's people who live nearby, so if she needs help, they have telephones. She can just call for help. Everybody's related. Everybody knows each other, kind of thing. So they didn't think anything of it. To leave her alone, it would be totally safe. Plus, there's horses, so if she needs to go someplace, she can just get on her horse and ride, because that's what people do, even today. They get their own horses and just ride to wherever. No big deal. It is kind of nice. And especially that area is really pretty country. Anyway, it was the summertime, it was the afternoon, and here the dog started barking, so she thought somebody was coming. So she was looking out at the window, and she couldn't see any cars or anything. The road was kind of far away, but she could still see. And so, but she didn't see any cars coming, but the dogs were really barking. And then their barks turned. For those of you that have dogs, you know that there's different kind of barks. Yeah, there's your happy barks where they're just happy to see you, and there's barks where they're, trying to chase something away, or where they're angry barks. There's a bark when a wild animal goes by, like a skunk or something. But that's a different kind of bark. But there's also a dog bark that is a frightful bark. And this is what you don't want to hear, because the dogs, they're scared. Truly, truly scared. This terror bark is really scary. And these dogs started to bark like that. Now, it's daytime. It's still in the afternoon. It's probably like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's daytime, and suddenly there's this smell. And it really stinks. Really bad. So she's looking around. It's like, what is that? Now, I have to describe this house for you. These particular kind of houses on the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation, they're kind of high off the ground. They're about I would say about a meter or two off the ground. They have steps going up. So ground level's kind of high because they have basements. All these kind of houses, you're going up some steps to get to the front door, like about 4 or 5 steps. So I'd say it's about a meter high. That would mean the window is about 2.5 meters off the ground. There's not too many people who are that tall. That's really tall. So she was looking out, and here she heard something. It looked like it was under the window. So she was going to look down and hear this thing stood up. And she made eye contact, and nobody knows what happened. Until the parents came home. Parents came home and the dogs were running all over the place, and right away the dad knew something was wrong. So usually a lot of these guys, they have rifle in their pickup because they hunt. So he got his rifle, and the horses were really, nervous too. Everything was just weird. It just felt weird. The air just felt weird, and even the wife and another sister that was with him, and they just didn't feel right. So he told him to stay in a pickup, and he was calling for the other daughter, but nobody answered. So he was starting to go around the house, and I said, "Geez, there's stinks around the house," and then he was saying, "Oh no, but it's one of those things." So he told his wife, he said, "We better get in the house, and we've got to start looking, because hopefully she's still here." So they were looking and looking. They were calling her name, and nobody answered. And then the younger sister, she went downstairs, and she really screamed. So the mom and dad ran down there really fast, and they said, Mom, she's under the stairs." So they went under the stairs, and there she was, and her eyes were just bug-eyed. Just totally bug-eyed. She was in shock. She couldn't move. To see this in the dark, the whites of her eyes, it just scared them. She looked scary herself. So the dad was trying to get her out, but she wouldn't go. She wouldn't come out. And so he kept telling her, "It's me, it's Daddy, it's me." So finally she started to, "Daddy?" She said, "Yeah." So she jumped to him, and she was screaming and screaming, "Don't let him get me, don't let him get me. No, don't take me upstairs, don't take me upstairs." He said, "We're not going anywhere." He said, "We're staying down here." She was just screaming and screaming and crying, and just hanging on to her dad for dear life. And they're like, "My God, what happened?" And a lot of these kids, see, this is 1980s, and a lot of these kids, they don't speak Lakota. So he told his wife, he said she saw Jehi. And so she was like, "Oh no." There's several medicine men down there in this area. So she called one of them, and he came over right away. And they set up ceremony. I won't say which one. They did one of the ceremonies in the basement. They had to get the energy out of the girl. So they did a ceremony there, and she was slowly calmed down, and he's singing certain songs. And then the drum is really, really important. For those of you who follow this show, you know that the drum has the blessing power of the thunder being in it. And this is cleansing. Wakia drives away Nkjehi. She destroys them, and she tries to destroy them before they get to water, because once they get in the water, she can't do anything. But that's where turtles come into the picture, because Wakia has an ally. She's allies with the turtle nation, and the turtles have her power, and they cleanse the water. See, Wakia cannot go in the water, but turtles can. Turtles live in the water and the land, and they have the cleansing power of Wakia. So they go in the water and they destroy. Nkjeshi. So the power is in the drum. So that they brought in the drum, and this medicine man started to sing certain songs. There's certain songs you have to sing for this, because it has the energy. It moves the Nkjeshi energy out of the person's body. So they did this for her. And they were able to get it out. So later that evening, she was so tired because as the energy was coming out of her body, it just tired her out because it was intense. And so the family and the medicine man, they stayed with her the whole night in case she had nightmares. So he would sing for her. So in the morning time, she was feeling pretty good. And she remembered it, but the energy was gone. So it didn't bother her too much. They made sure she wasn't alone after that. So she made eye contact. That was the danger. Because when the energy travels through the eyes, and so that's why in Lakota custom, you're not supposed to look people in the eyes, especially somebody you don't know, because there could be unhealthy energy that goes from them into you. But people you know, people you love, people you trust, you can look in the eye. Because you know nobody's going to send unhealthy energy to each other. That's customs here. So there is a river near where they lived. Other men came. They all had rifles and their horses. Their relatives came and they were going to try to see what happened after the eye contact was made. And the girl, she has no memory of how she got to the basement. She doesn't remember. She just remembers looking at this thing, and she said it really screamed. And that's what freaked her out. She said was the scream and the eyes. They were yellow eyes. And they really freaked her out. So she doesn't know how she got in the basement. So it's probably instinct. Got her to a safe place. So the dogs, they didn't want to follow. They didn't want to follow the trail because it scared them. So the men had to follow the prints, the way the grass was pushed into the ground. They followed it, and sure enough, it went to a river. So they were going up and down both sides of this river to see if it crossed. It never did. It never came out on the other side. So either it walked in the river and just continued on until whenever, or it just went in the water and was gone. Where the footprints, where they would put sage there to cleanse it. Because this is contention. This is not a good thing. So then they went back to the house, and some guy said they would stay there over the night and watch the house in case it tried to come back. They were going to be ready for it. It never did. True story. True story. Not kidding. What do you think that was? Something that's about 10 feet tall. Looks like a man, but it's not. Brown hair all over the body. Smells horrible. I'll leave that to your imagination. But some of you know what that is. They're all over the world. Just people don't realize it. They live where the water is. And people just don't realize. And when I first heard it, then I was like, oh man, it just gave me the heebie-jeebies, yeah. So, to find her, and she was all bug-eyed because of what she saw. And the scream that it made, she said it just really scared her. And the horses were trying to break free, the dogs were going nuts, and it was really a bad situation. And it ran away. Holy. That's Nkjeshi, yeah? So be careful. Be careful out there. To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge Spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota spirituality videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking on that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link, and there you will see the information to get this book. Lila Pila Mayelo. Thank you very much.